Hi there, this is Alexander Hall for Viva Voce, week 1 of the first term of level 3, year 2. So, week 1 already commencing, we're already on to our autumn term, which is our first term of the year, and I'm going to be going over all the different things like my strengths, my weaknesses that I went through over the first week of term, and also I'll be looking at the things that I have learnt which will help me prepare me for my future years that I can try and use for the future of performing arts, which will either be at a uni elsewhere or doing the H&D or the BA Homes, which is here at Nescott. So I'm going to start off here now with my first question, which is, what new skills have I learnt this week? So firstly, my first one that I learnt is breathing exercises. So I've done a lot of breathing exercises over the last year while I was here at Nescott. But what we had to do, which was different, which we did with our new tutor, Carly, who's our new singing tutor, one of the things that she was really pointing out, because she doesn't know our vocals that well, she was giving us like tips of how to fulfill yourself into a character if you're trying to play a musical, if you're trying to be a musical character from a musical theatre show, or for any of that. It can be for a drama as well, but also that it can help with singing requirements when you're trying to act and sing as well. And the breathing exercises that we looked at. So we looked at how your posture works, how you're standing up, how you're trying to lift yourself up a little bit, or lying down, but trying to lie down by really building your bum off the ground. So the one thing that we had to do, which I started really getting into, was really trying to testify how my bum has to be lifted off, and how it's going to really start to give me a bit more energy. And if you just lie down with your bum on the ground, you're not really feeling anything. If you're lifting it off, you're going to feel so much tension that it's going to build your energy up. It's going to build your self-confidence up, because that's the one thing it does for me, and it will just help massively. The next one is the talk of the importance of context and body language. So on Friday, we all went in to do an acting class with Leanne, which went on for the whole morning. And the thing that we were looking at this master class which Leanne did with this theatre director called Katie Mitchell, who explained with her some of the things that make a real high quality actor and what makes a small quality actor. And the thing that we looked at was how important it is to understand the context of a play or film or a TV series, and then trying to understand the character that you're trying to portray, and getting that body language and finding the right body language that hits the mark of a character that you're trying to play. So I learnt that when we were reading this play called Wastewater, which was by Simon Stevens, where we were looking at like all these different details of the different characters from Jonathan and Sean, trying to go through different pages. So in different groups, we were asked to check out a particular amount of pages of the play, and just look at some of the small details and pick out the facts, but ask questions of how these things came across and how these might have happened in some circumstances, and looking at and maybe even researching a few things, because Simon Stevens will have taken a lot of inspiration from seeing public areas and trying to test his audience, which is the one thing that Simon Stevens does a lot with his plays, especially with Curious Incident of Dog in the Night Time and all that. So yeah, and the next one we looked at was high quality acting. Now this one is all about researching into detail into the play and improving your characterization. So with this, it's when you are really looking through a play, it's not just about looking at the lines and learning the lines and then just going out and going on stage and doing your role. It's about really looking into detail, because the one thing that you find is you find some really good actors. You find actors who do the simple jobs, which is learning lines and trying to get themselves to characterize really strongly. But there's something that makes a really amazing actor, which is how they look into the context of that character and try and create their own spin, try and create what they think makes their character unique. And that's the one thing that so many, especially a lot of young actors struggle with so much, because they worry more about the smaller things like the lines. They worry more about the lines than learning about the actual context. And actually, they think more about the basic skills than the really difficult skills. And some of them can be really basic, but they get thrown away from us because we think too much about the smaller things. So that's one thing that I learned a lot of. So the next question, the second question is, how will this benefit me in preparation for my chosen progression route? So my next progression route is I want to either try and go to a musical theatre, do a musical theatre BA Hones at a London uni elsewhere. So it can be at a particular performing arts college like Arts Ed, there's Central and there's RADA. And if those don't work out, then I'll be probably coming back here for H&D, depending on what happens with my other colleges elsewhere. And the things that I've worked out when looking at the audition pages on those college websites is that they say that you have to really make sure that you are bringing that character together and really bringing in what you know of them and how you can perceive it to make the casting directors, how you can make the staff really believe what you're trying to play, instead of just going in there and just saying words, which really doesn't mean much. It doesn't mean as much to them if you know the words, but if you know like the context of your character, it will make it much more unique to them, and they'll want to take people on like that. If you're not giving that much out for them, then they'll just not want you in. So it's very important that you get that right. And looking at the techniques such as the high quality acting and then the importance of context and body language. If I can really perfect those, then that will help me really give me more chance to get out into those bigger colleges, which are very competitive. You know, they're very picky at who they bring in, so it's very important that you know these techniques, which will give you more opportunities and better ideas of how to get out there and go into bigger colleges elsewhere. So that's the one thing that it really needs to be taken seriously if you want to go into that kind of area. Right, number 3. What were my 3 main strengths? So my first strength was really starting to look early into my audition material. So I have always been one of those people who wants to, as soon as you're told this is what's going to happen in this term, and that some of it is requiring you to do your own research and to look into what you think is going to really help. So my audition material that I've been looking at is looking at musical theatre songs that I could audition for other colleges elsewhere, and really looking into detail what the right musical songs would be. So I looked into around five different musical songs that were male solos, and thinking which one will really do me better and will give me more chance of going out and getting accepted into really big colleges. So I looked at Soliloquy, which is by Carousel, which is in the 1956 version, and it's also in the musical version as well, in the West End version, which is also found on iTunes on the 1993 London cast, which is not a bad version if you ask me, but that's one for another video. Another one that I looked at was Music of the Night from Phantom of the Opera. I'm a really big Phantom of the Opera fan, and I've always been really keen to play the Phantom when I get older, and trying to get the role of Phantom when I'm getting up and doing more professional, getting more professional experience. And it's one main role that I've always been keen to get, so playing the Phantom would mean a lot to me. But then again, the one thing that I found is that Phantom is quite a really popular musical, and a lot of colleges are very picky, and they don't like it when people just give them songs which so many people know, and they go, oh, that's just Phantom of the Opera. Anyone will choose Phantom of the Opera because it's popular. If you go for ones which not many people remember, so Carousel, that's from back in the 1956, which not many young people like me go and choose because they forget about those years, and they don't even bother about those years. They think that those years were boring. But if you get someone who is trying to use a variety and not just choosing simple songs which anyone will work out is from Phantom of the Opera or from Les Mis, then there's less likely chance you'll get through. Another one that I chose was Razzle Dazzle from Chicago, and this one I've been very familiar with it for a while, but I've only just got into watching Chicago recently because I'll be hopefully doing Chicago in June with my other group, Surrey Youth Music Theatre, and I'm hoping to try and audition for Billy Flynn. So I thought if I audition to do a song that Billy Flynn does, then it will hopefully help me with my audition process for Surrey Youth Music Theatre. But again, most colleges are very picky nowadays, and it's all mostly down to the right balance of the right songs, and sometimes it probably wasn't the best choice to go for. And also, it's kind of like the same tone as Soliloquy, so they're both ballads, and you don't want to go for two ballads. You want to have a mixture of a ballad and upbeat, so that probably wouldn't have worked for me. The other one is If I Can't Love Her from Beauty and the Beast, which is from the musical stage version, not from the films. So it's not from the 1991 film version or the recent 2017 film version. This is from the actual stage musical, which is a song which the Beast sings after he scares Belle off out of the West Wing for touching the rose and putting the Beast's secret out there. So but that one I've done before, and I did it back in February for a show of Broadway, which was also with Surrey Youth Music Theatre from last year. And I thought maybe if I use this one, it will hopefully improve my understanding of the actual song, and trying to think about how to improve Beauty and how to improve the song as well. But yeah, this problem is that's a ballad, and you don't want two ballads. You want one ballad, one upbeat, which is simple as. So I had to reject doing that in the end. So, and also it doesn't test me enough because I already know the song. I want to find something that I don't know as well, so it actually can give me a chance. If I was to audition for a college where they would just say, you do this song, you do that song, and they'll say, we don't want any options, I don't want you to make up your flexible mind. You do this song, we don't care. Do that song, learn it. So I want to try and find something which I don't know very well straight away, and then that way it will test me on how quickly I can learn songs, how I can learn lines, etc. Final one is What Do I Need with Love from Thoroughly Modern Millie. Now I chose this one because it's very upbeat, and it's also one which is around in the 60s. So, and this is going to be a thing on a lot of for a lot of people who want to audition. They will choose. There will be not many people like me who will want to choose musical songs from the old eras. So if you go for a song from 1956 and one from 1964, you know, not many are going to choose that. So I thought maybe be a bit more diverse and go for something which not many people are going to do. So you go for Soliloquy from Carousel, and then do What Do I Need with Love with Thoroughly Modern Millie. You might get more chance because they're both, one's a ballad, one's upbeat, but also they've got something that not many auditionees will want to choose. So if you go for those, you might get more chance. So those are the two that I've chosen. But yeah, so that's pretty much me under that area. Now the other thing that it's been my strength is settling into the mindful exercises. So when I've been settling in quite a bit, I do try to really relax myself, not distract myself, and kind of give myself that sleeping feel. You know, when you really start to sleep in and you're really starting to drift yourself away. Sometimes when you're doing that, it will really help get that extra sleep that you might not have been able to put together when sleeping at home. And once you're doing these exercises, it will wake you up with a much more upbeat stamina, instead of just going in and starting to come up and going, I'm still so tired. If you do these exercises, you'll have a lot more build and a lot more upbeat self about you. So these exercises really do help, and they've really settled me in and made me feel a lot more energetic and given me more of a feel for everything. So that's a really important exercise. And if there was a chance that I was to go to audition and I was really tired, if I was to do a mindful exercise before doing anything, then I know that I'll be more awake and more willing to give all my energy out into these auditions. So that's a really important one for me. Now the third one will be taking on board the essentials of acting. So one of the things that I always do when I first get a script is I always like to learn it as early as possible. Even if it takes me a week or 3 days or 2 weeks to learn, you know, I will make sure that I learn it as soon as I possibly can, so that I'm not procrastinating a week before a show and I haven't learned my lines yet. And if you learn your lines early and you have your lines out of the way, you can worry more about your characterization. And that's the one thing that, because I did this, because of what we did on Friday, it's given me, because I think a lot about my lines first, and then I start thinking about the other essentials of acting after that. The thing that I've noticed a lot is that sometimes I do really I do struggle a lot with understanding context and understanding all different methods alongside that. So the thing that I want to do more of is really analyze so closely what I see in a play and what I see in a script, and looking at the little details, even at the back of the book, or even on the first page of the script, just looking at the small details, looking at the ages, looking at all that. And then if there's something in there that you don't understand, you know, Google it, research up some stuff that you are asking yourself questions about, and you're asking questions. Go into those kind of details, and you'll be more into the play than if you just learn the lines and think, oh, I've got nothing else to do. if you have all those in your mind, then you're going to create a better scene for the audience to be conveyed into. So, number 4, what are my 3 weaknesses? So, first weaknesses is lacking memorization in tap. So, the thing that I always struggle with is getting the right foot. So, once I've really familiarized myself with a particular movement, the one thing that I do a lot of is I forget what foot I'm on. I keep practicing, and then all of a sudden I forget what foot I'm on. And it happens to me a lot, and sometimes it just takes extra time to really understand it. But the one thing that I know that I really need to work out is when you're doing these movements, if you're struggling on the first go, you go out and you go and do it again, but look at like videos. So looking at a video of the same movement either on YouTube, and you look at it and you start to visualize what they're doing. I can probably get the hang of it by looking at it, because I'm more of a visual person than someone who just works something out through word of mouth. You know, if you're watching someone do something and you're watching it on video and you're watching it on camera, or you're watching someone do it in an actual lesson, you've got more of a chance of getting it right. And that's just from my method. I mean, I don't know if it's the same for anyone else, but it's more or less my method of how to learn stuff and how to learn particular movements. So that's one thing I'm going to do. My other weakness would be struggling to balance on the ground without my bum off the ground. So if you get what I mean, when I was talking about these mindful exercises, I struggle a lot with holding my bum off the ground. And sometimes when I'm doing that, I find myself walking around on my foot a lot, because it puts a lot of strain on me, and sometimes I start to go, oh, that hurts, and I just start moving instead of just staying still and letting the pain get the better of me and trying to really overcome it in my own way. So the thing that I need to do a lot more is, because I'm actually going to the gym, I've signed up for a year membership at the college gym. One of the things that I'm going to work on is trying to hold up onto something and try and hold my stamina in, because the one thing I do a lot of is when I'm holding on to a particular position for a long length of time, I struggle in holding myself together and trying to keep still, because it hurts, because sometimes it's how you build that stamina out. It's a bit like when you're running and you're feeling that, I'm starting to run out of breath. When you're trying not to let that get the better of you, and you still try and build that stamina by keep going, then it will help a lot in terms of how you fulfill that in. So it's just the same with just relaxing a bit more and doing the same thing. So yeah, that's one of my weaknesses there. Next one, struggling to understand a script when reading through it. So the one thing that I find is when you first get a script and you read through it, you misunderstand a lot, especially if you're just reading lines and it means nothing. It means nothing to me, because I don't even, sometimes when you first get a script and you're just saying lines, sometimes you can say lines in so many different ways, but you don't get the context. But the one thing that I feel that if I'm reading a script and I am just saying the lines just by reading it, the thing that I'll feel right inside me is maybe thinking, imagine what is going on in that scene, imagine what the scenery, imagine all the set, imagine what's really going on. And once you realise what is happening, then you'll get much more of a gist of what to maybe answer when staff are saying, alright, what do you think you got from that, what you got from this play? And then you've got more of an idea of what to say. And even if you're wrong, if you imagine it, it'll leave you without looking speechless after you've read a full script and you've not really got an idea of what the script's all about. So imagine, read, do all those, and you'll get the idea of it. So So yeah, I've already answered my number 5, which is how will I overcome my weaknesses, and I've made those up. So hopefully that's it from me. My first Viva of this year, of year 2, level 3. Hope you've enjoyed the video as much as I have, and thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.